Good evening everyone, welcome to the Queensland branch AEVA March 2024 meeting. It's lovely to see you all again. Tonight I'm giving my normal speech, then we've got Arran from Regen EV is going to talk to us about Strata EV charger installs, and Mitch is going to have a chat to us about changes to the solar EV charging that we mentioned in January and things like that. So we'll crack straight into it. And then we'll have tea and coffee at the end as normal. Okay, normally start with the EV infrastructure. All of the free chargers are offline. This went back online, now it's back offline, and that's pretty typical. I'm sure you're probably getting sick of this one now, actually. It's they're offline. I don't know where the Uber drivers are charging now, but yes. Next one, Liz. Arran, you're famous, mate, you're famous. Up at Gunnable Homestead. What's that close to, Arran? Sorry? I forgot to write what that's close to. Gympie? Gympie area. There's a new ELU 160 kilowatt dual charger.
What is an ELU?
What is an ELU?
ELU is a new network sort of player in the market, and they're just setting up charging stations here in Queensland.
They're a new brand. I've already downloaded the app. It's just another app, you know. Like, it's just take. Oh, credit card, perfect. Is there a particular brand of that charger? Company, their brand. Okay. Because last month I said something, and Les corrected me, so I just want to check now that that's their brand. So. Oh, lovely. 200 kilowatt battery, lovely. Well, it looks good, and there's one of these down the Gold Coast too, isn't there? Yep, so. That's the owner of the homestead, I'm assuming. That's one of your employees, is it?
Yeah, he works for me, and David's actually the director of the
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, that's very convenient, and there is already a bunch. Why is Gympie getting all the love? That's all I know. It's a major thoroughfare. What's that?
It's about to be bypassed.
Yeah. Okay, EV Networks North Lakes charger opened in late February after our last meeting, after not being open for about 6 months. So that is finally online. Round the corner, next one, Les, they opened the Tesla supercharger, V3, which does up to 250 kilowatt. There's 9 heads. I'm pretty sure I counted them. Yep.
There's 9. One was out the other day as well.
Yep. So, what's that? Sorry?
No, just Tesla.
Just Tesla at the moment. Is there any? There's no Queensland open to any at the moment, is there?
Gympie and Calliope.
Oh, Gympie and Calliope. Okay. Just today, Tesla supercharger opened at Bowen as well. I've just been reliably informed. So if any of those, anyone travelling north that owns a Model 3 or a Y or any Tesla, that's helpful. And we all know about the reliability of some of the Quesh charging sites, so any extra charges on the way up north is very handy.
I've just been behind Rocky's also.
Rocky, yeah. So Rocky and Bowen open today or this month?
Yeah, Rocky, Tesla is open to the public. So there's Gympie, Calliope and Rocky all open to the public.
Okay.
I don't know about Bowen.
All right, perfect. Well, we've been waiting for the expansion of the supercharger network for a little while, so that's good to see that. Still waiting on Cleveland. Come on, come on. There's a new EV charger going in at Carolee Shopping Village, and they look to me like one dual 150 kilowatt chargers with 3 CCS and 1 charter mode. Obviously the charter mode doesn't charge that fast, but if you've got the 62 kilowatt hour Leaf, you'll go faster than 50 kilowatt. Keep you updated on that one. Still coming soon, going to Windy. One day they'll open this. I don't know what the hassle is, honestly. It's always Energex. Okay, I just got advised that Eureka are now charging 55 cents a kilowatt hour. The government network is now 55 cents, not 30 that we've been living off for the last 5 years. So Gold Coast, the Gold Coast still 30? Anyone know? I'm not driving to the Gold Coast to charge. And all, like, does anyone else find that all the free charges are offline and now the government have put their price up? Conspiracy theory. Nerang's still 30, perfect.
Well, the Elanga charger at the Queensland Raceway is now open too.
Yes, we did that last month. Yep, it was open according to PlugShare. There was a car did, and it's got a battery in it too.
Yes.
So, yes. Moving right along. That's mostly it for EV infrastructure. Events that are coming up. I think there's a fair few Toka meetups for coffee. This weekend we've got one at Yandina, 10 o'clock. We've got one at Sirame on the this weekend as well, Mount Cotton, 9 o'clock. Brackenridge Tavern the following weekend. No, that's the following week, 10 o'clock. Next hall meeting here is April the 17th. Harvey Bay is doing a Toka meetup. The Solar and Storage Live at Brisbane Convention Centre is on the 1st and the 2nd of May. I'll see if I can get some tickets for that one. Let me know if you're interested in going to that. I'll see what I can do. Still looking ahead to Gab's 60th at the electric go-kart Game Over site on the 5th of May.
Anybody wants anything?
Perfect. Rocky EV display is happening at Murray Street all day on the 1st of June, if anyone who's interested in maybe attending that. And as mentioned before, Noosa EV and Electrified Expo, 16th of June. And Gympie have had an eco festival, Sustainable Futures Festival, for a few years. That's on the 23rd of June.
We've got Motorfest again.
RSEQ Motorfest is always the same as the Noosa EV Expo.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put it on there? All right, that's I think it for events. There wasn't, you know, I trawled the internet for interesting EV news, and I didn't find that much inspiring news. So I've just gone with slightly interesting news. So this, owners in America are getting their Cybertrucks now, so we're starting to see stuff online like this. 130k range when you're towing a 5-ton caravan. So hopefully they've got those drive-through chargers just ready for that, but look at the size of that thing, eh? Like 93 kilowatt hours per 100. Surely there's going to be a car soon that's doing 1 kilowatt hour per kilometre.
You need a pretty big truck to get to 1 kilowatt. I've got one and it's that kind of
1 kilowatt hour per kilometre.
That's really interesting. So that's a 5-ton caravan and a 2-ton car. Maybe 3 ton, let's call it 3 ton car.
Was
So
it
it's an
8
8-ton
tons or
combo.
metric tons?
That's an 8-ton combo. I've got a 15-ton truck.
But the ball weight is not like 5 tonne, is it? It's like,
Like the whole
Yeah.
thing. I have a 15-ton electric truck that uses the same amount of energy. So that's really quite inefficient. That's what I'm saying.
inefficient.
Inefficient.
Yeah, I know. I know it's inefficient.
5-ton teardrop.
Yeah. All right. Just a couple of cars that are hitting the market in the next few months. The Mark E, did you test drive that, did you? Already?
I drove one for a week in New Zealand.
Yeah, and? Thoughts? And the Teslas are better?
Yeah, the front seat is mechanical. You can't tilt the squabs.
How dare they?
If you've got a pressure point on the front of your legs, you can't do anything about it.
Oh.
Boot lid is mechanical. You have to mechanically lift and lower it yourself. There's no power boot on it. When it was delivered to me or given to me, it had one pedal driving turn left and the whole turns off. So the trip down from Auckland to Waiuku, every time I punched the brakes, it was
Oh, God.
It had already had about 6,500 k's on it. So
Yeah, because I saw a very early review of the Mustang and it seemed like they'd actually stolen a lot of, or maybe fixed some of the things that people weren't happy with, like the Model 3, and implemented them into this car. So they took some of the learnings or some of the negative feedback and modified that on this car. But
one thing I did like about it was when you try to take control when it's got lane keep on,
Yep.
it just gradually goes out. So
yeah, the lane keep assist
Yeah, lane keep assist
is slightly better.
Reasonably good.
Yeah.
The headlights weren't that brilliant. We had to drive in the way at night.
Yeah.
And the headlights weren't good.
Yeah, I still don't know about calling it, a Mustang either.
Yeah.
They could have done something else.
They could have just called it Mark E, it would be fine.
Just Mark it, yeah.
Conservatively driving it because my wife was in the car. It was around about 18 kilowatt hours.
Okay, 18 kilowatt hours per 100. Okay. All right. Well, with any luck, I'll get one in for the haul to have a look.
Okay, rating out of 10, what do you reckon?
Probably a 7.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, that's generous.
But it just wasn't as nice as the Model 1.
I mean, what is? I mean,
The seats were reasonably comfortable until I hit some bumps.
yeah.
And the front seat was like a trampoline.
I don't know. 7 out of 10. That's pretty good.
It's 7 out of 10 the world's price of European luxury car.
Yeah. Okay. What's next? We're going to start to see some of the VW models this year too. So we got the ID3, ID4, so ID3, ID4, ID5, and the Buzz. So
I think the 3 is coming.
well,
Because the Born,
we'll see.
The Born is here, and the Born is a 3.
Yeah. So what, they don't want to compete? Okay. Well, maybe some people like the VW badge over the Cupra Born badge. So. Okay, we had a request for an expert to speak to us about unit complex. Over here, bud. Unit complex and strata and body corporate advice, setups, and Arran is the most knowledgeable person I know in that space, and I must refer him at least 2 people a month. No one ever says anything bad, so...
I'm really rich because of it. So I'm thinking about,
Yeah, you owe me millions, actually.
I'm thinking about moving to the Bahamas. But
So tonight, rather than Arran doing a full-on presentation, what we're going to do is play some music and I'm going to start off asking a couple of questions about... I'm going to ask Arran some questions that I think you guys want to know, and then we'll open up to the audience. We've got a few photos of his installs and stuff like that to go through as well, but a bit more just question rather than actual presentation. So what we'll start with is, sorry, just quickly. All right. Well, first of all, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us your background and what you do for your daily job.
Yep, I'm Arran from Regen EV. I've got a few Teslas in the fleet, and a few of the guys drive around in the Teslas to do commercial and residential, and charging in apartments and whatnot. Hi. So that's all we do. We do that all day, every day. So so anything to do with EV charging, that's what we do. I'm also the state rep for Queensland TOCA. So we hold events, as many of you might know. That's what I do.
It's a very important man. So. All right, so what are the greatest barriers for EV charger installs in a Strata situation?
This is a challenging one. There's a heap of different aspects of resistance in terms of apartment charging. First of all is the fear around fires. Number two is probably funding. There's probably a multitude of different things, but probably fear of fire is probably the main one.
So I live in an apartment. No, I mean I don't. If I lived on an apartment and I've just bought an EV and I want to put a charger in my dedicated car park, are you finding there are any restrictions at the body corporate level? Because you're generally able to talk customers through that stuff?
Yeah, I'd normally consult them. I'd normally put the committee together, or management, or whatever it is, and we'd sit down and we'd go through the procedure of how we want to lay out the EV charging in the basement. Generally they're all excited because someone's just got an EV, but there's always someone in there that shows some sort of resistance, and then it's a case of going back and consulting the committee, and then going through the procedure from there. But we always try and go lightly first. So don't go in and say we're going to put in EV charging all the way through, because it'll generally get knocked back.
So generally, I assume like basements, there's already power of some sort in there.
Yeah.
So would the standard charger be a wall socket, or would it be 7 kilowatt level 2?
So if you're lucky enough, there's a switchboard that's handy, and if you've got your meter associated with that particular switchboard, then you're lucky enough to be able to pay for the infrastructure for yourself. And if you're going to try and go for anything, you'd probably try and push for an EV charger in that particular basement car park for your unit. But if there is any resistance, then you would probably look to go for a PowerPoint or something, and then maybe as the building becomes a bit more less rigid, then you'd probably introduce something a bit more sustainable. But you just don't find switchboards with meters. They're all up in different levels.
Not being an apartment owner, but just to have a PowerPoint run to my dedicated car park, do I have to go through the body corporate?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's not really my building.
Yeah, no, you do. Everything needs to be.
It needs approval.
Yeah.
It has to go through.
Anything that's sort of attached to a wall is got to be approved. Yeah.
Okay. What do you suggest a prospective customer that wants to install an EV charger does prior to actually calling you?
Just first of all, make sure that it's okay to move forward. So they're going to have talk to management, the committee, and make sure that they're on board with something being attached to the ceiling, or, you know, yeah, it's like, you know, I don't know how many times I've been out to sites where they want to put an EV charger in there, but the bloke next to it in his petrol vehicle was just adamant that this thing is going to catch on fire. And then once, you know, this sort of conversation happens, and it's pretty well, it's just a no. So,
yeah. So, is there perhaps a certain amount of times where, like, so I would assume sometimes people contact you and it ends up being a no?
Yeah.
Is that a small minority, or is it half and half? Or?
Like I do a lot of installs, but, you know, mainly you're lucky enough that the meter is inside the switchboard, and really if they're going to pay for the infrastructure, then it's pretty hard to say no to them. So as long as they abide by the guidelines or the requirements, then really it should be fine. But if there's any major alterations like core hole through floors and things like that, then yeah, it gets expensive and it gets tricky.
Yep, okay. What arrangements have you heard of for EV owners to pay or compensate the body corp for the additional electricity usage?
Yeah, well, again, if it's not attached to your meter, then they have to be compensated for that energy. Yep. We would generally use a device, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, it's like the company's called Nudo. There's the hardware and then there's the software component to the device, but those particular units are quite easily, from an install perspective, we can hang it on the wall. It can be, the back end software can be set up so that the funds are redirected into the body corporate's bank accounts, and that pays for the usage of the energy that's being used, and that's a pretty quick and easy and efficient way to move forward for that particular setup.
Because it's my understanding that you're not paying generally an individual bill at times in some buildings. So like you could just run your aircon and like it's a group, it gets actually, sometimes it's itemised and sometimes it's not. So are you finding that it's generally metered per household?
Each unit has their own dedicated meter, and that's whatever usage is going through that. But
so you would have to run the cabling from their meter to their car park?
If you can get to their meter, that's fine. But in some of these situations, the meter is on level 15.
Yes.
So now we're plumbing into the whatever's close.
Yep.
And you'll find that any of those meters that you just put in there, like just a digital type meter that you can physically read the usage on it, will end up being phased out, because what are you going to do if there's 100 apartments and everyone's got like individual digital meters? Someone's going to physically have to go there and read that, and that's just not going to be viable.
Okay, what should customers look out for with electrical contractors if they need an EV charger installed? You're advertising? What do things like a bit shady that people would you've seen across time? I mean, you don't have to like throw anyone under the bus.
No.
Is it?
No, I just think you need to know
you're finding a reputable one versus
reputable one. I mean, I think you need to find someone who knows what they're doing, for one thing. I mean, even just setting up 2 Nudos like that, just to get your laptop out, configure it, set up the billing aspect and all the rest of it, is not really something that I learnt in my electrical trade. It was only something I adopted as I bought a Tesla X in 2020 or whatever it was, that I was able to tinker around and find that niche and then play around with that sort of stuff. But I was lucky enough to do that. But most Sparkies are not really getting laptops out and playing with software.
So perhaps you could ask how many actual EV chargers they've installed.
And
that would give a fair gauge of.
I think most Sparkies are going to tell you they can put an EV charger in.
Because it's just another device.
Well, and that's what they would assume is happening. But you know, when they go to a site and they've got to go through manuals and all the rest of it, it starts looking very unprofessional.
Yeah.
They might get through it, but we've got a question down.
Does the new VO or whatever company that you're going to,
Yeah, that Nudo.
do they have like a list of preferred suppliers or installers on their website?
I haven't actually been on their website, but no, I don't believe they do, no.
Might be something to look into.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Nudo at the minute, but yeah, so, I don't know if anyone knows Sam. Yeah, well, you know Sam.
We all know
but,
Sam, and
yeah.
he's a business member of AEVA Queensland.
Yeah, so Sam has stepped away from the role. So right now it's kind of, I've got 2 installs in Sydney where they've been set up similar to that, and the electricians down there installed it and they weren't able to commission it, so I commissioned them remotely. But the back end merchant agreement needs to be set up, and unfortunately there's no one to assist. So the actual Strata committee is getting a bit frustrated that it's not, there's no one there.
Okay. That was just my preliminary question, so if you've got any other questions about unit installs, go for it, John.
How frequently is the maximum load for the complex an issue?
Yeah.
What workarounds do you have for that? Like, do you have time metering?
Yeah.
You know, after hours. Do you have options for shared charge points and so forth as well?
Yeah.
Individuals can, you know, swipe a card.
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, the load is a big issue as well. So with the capacity, what we'd normally do is if they're serious about moving forward, we'd put in some software and would monitor the mains and the load on the building over a period of a month, and then we would assess what's available, and then with that we would set up the hardware and the software to stay within 80% of what's available. Yeah, and then the software will do its stuff. It'll load balance between the vehicles all the way through. The emptiest car will get the faster charge, and then the ones that are slightly need a top up, then they'll get a lesser ampage.
In that bubble break there, the red pipe, fire water, was that part of the deal? You had to install that?
No, that's no. But I have heard stories where I've quoted on Hilton, I think it was, and they've got they call them assets because they, obviously they make money on these devices. But all around Australia, they've got assets in buildings and whatever else. And they've been told by certain authorities that they have to turn the assets off until they can put sprinkler systems through there. So, yeah, it's crazy.
I was going to ask about like switchboards, and a lot of sites will have to have a CO2 extinguisher.
Yeah. So what we do, when I quote the proposal, the full proposal sort of goes along the lines of, like we talked about, analyse the capacity. Then the next thing I will do is I'll put in my proposal that we need fire extinguishers and we'll need some shut-off switches so that if the fire is come in, they've got easy access to be able to shut the power down. I've also included fire blankets now, just because it's getting harder and harder to get these things over the line, and they're really just ripping everything apart. So I'm trying to cover all bases. I don't know if any of that's going to make any difference, but I'm just going to put it in there. I've even put smoke detectors all the way through the basement. I'll just put wireless ones through there. As I say, stop-start buttons.
It sounds like you're trying to bring the band-aid solutions to the situation that probably needs to be addressed with education.
Yeah, 100%.
They're just being ridiculous.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And you're doing everything you can. The lithium fire blankets are a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
The lithium fire extinguishers are just an equal waste of time.
Yeah.
If it's gone, it's gone.
Exactly.
But typically it's not the car that's going to go up, it's a battle of connection which you don't have because you're obviously a great installer. Or all the rest of it. But I don't know if there's a chance, so there is some wood education that's come out of the AEVA Council specifically focused on New South Wales.
Yep.
So there's some documentation out of that.
Yep.
And the likes of the fire safe as well.
Yep.
The data that comes out of the
Yeah.
fire safe.
So, and that's the other thing I do add as well, and yeah, good point, is that I say to the committee, like, I'm happy to introduce some sort of courses, and we talk about EV Fire Safe. I think it's like $350 a course or whatever it is, online or whatever, for those that are in the management sort of roles, if they want to take that responsibility and, you know, look after the asset, maybe you guys need to go through the course. So we do add that as well, yeah. Go.
Just in a similar vein, if you have body corporates ask about the implications on the insurance, will the building insurance sort of go up accordingly, given this conception of time and...
Yeah, and that's another good point as well, and that's the other thing. So there's all these little things that they're red flags for a body corporate. It's like, okay, now our insurance is, I hear this as well a lot. There's not much I can do or say about it. But it's not every insurer either. There is only a selective few that I've found that actually are against this type of setup, but I have been to other buildings where they've said, no, that's not an issue at all, so yeah. Yes, John?
So are there any regulations at the moment in Queensland with regards to fire stuff, or is that just people's fear driving that?
I think it's a ever-changing landscape. It's like solar. It's like every time there's something that moves forward, then there's another regulation or whatever it is. I don't know if there's, I haven't actually seen any documentation at all to say that this is what's required. I mean, there might be something out there, but every time I go to another site inspection, someone else proposes something different. It's like, yeah, and the more research you do, the worse it gets. It's like
for somebody to say you can't do it unless you've got X.
Yeah.
It's really easy for them to say that.
Yeah.
It's really hard for somebody to go, you know, say why.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh. And I've experienced this as well. I understand QFDS are currently considering some, apartment underground, new buildings, near high density guidelines, but again, it's going to be difficult for them to come out with something that's definitive because no one wants to make a decision.
It's not only that, I found and talked to their research people last year, and they don't even have data on how many they attend over 2,000 car fires a year, but they can't tell me how many of them are electric.
Yeah.
No, zero. Zero. And going in fire safe and have a look.
Yeah.
So I just want to know where this stuff comes from.
I actually got the info, like I did so much searching the internet for the numbers, and I'm sure I actually presented this last year, but I looked for how many battery fires there were in Australia from 2012, when we kind of got the first ones, to 2021 or 2022, and I actually ended up contacting that lady that looks after, Emma. She said there was like 5, and then the following week there was that MG fire in the battery pack that was out of the car, and it short-circuited and caught a few other cars on. Now, what she said then was that when a house is on fire and a car is engulfed, that class is 1. Yeah, that's right. It's not even just the cars that are causing the fire, it's when the car is also involved in the fire. Yeah. So that 4 isn't 4 cars spontaneously combusting, it might have been 1, and then 3 that have caught on fire from other means. Now, the other part I found was the US had data, and it was like between 2011 and 2021, so 10 years, there was 1.2 million vehicle fires, and you can imagine that wasn't EVs, right? And that was just the US. Yeah. So like the ratio is just absolutely ridiculous towards ICE. So, but no one ever talks about that. So unfortunately, with the fire blankets and all this other stuff that we're taking safety precautions for, it's because of the education, and that's just something we have to deal with. We have to deal with it as like memes on Facebook when you post something about EVs and like, oh yeah, bring your fire extinguisher. That's just the cultural thing that's around EVs. Everyone knows that, but that's not actually going to change anytime soon because people are worried about it. So
I think the live data is that from EV FireSafe is that there's been like 24 EVs that have caught fire in the time that we've had EVs prevalent in Australia. So it's 24 is bugger all. So
Two of those are because of battery.
yeah, exactly. So, but they don't want to. But no one really wants to look at all that data, and it's unfortunate that.
Well, it's not necessarily recorded is half the problem.
Yeah.
Just go to EV FireSafe and
Yeah.
load the latest fact sheet,
Yeah.
and it'll tell you exactly. It's on my phone
Yeah.
there right now.
How many is it, Nathan?
So this is the global number. So
Global.
393 globally
Yeah.
confirmed cases.
Yeah.
74 maybe cases and 21 still being investigated. So let's call that
500.
Let's call 500, right?
Yeah.
Totally, all time, ever.
It's a bit lower than 1.2 million in US only. So worldwide, that would have to be 3 million or something, you know? Like.
And there's also another fact sheet about where they occur. So is it on the road? Is it whilst it's charging? Is it whilst it's not charging parked? And some other data around those bits and pieces. You have a look at it. You know, the charging, the whilst charging is less than a quarter of that number. So 125 in 500. It's bugger.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It just means it's not prevalent.
Yeah, exactly.
But we've all come to terms with the risk, but the general public haven't because they have only heard that EVs catch on fire.
Yeah.
You know, and when there's that undertone of misinformation, it's very hard to pull yourself out of that. Once the mud is slung, it's sticking, and it doesn't matter what the facts are. You know what I mean? And we all know that. But
can I just make another off track? It's not what you're here to talk about. Can I just make another point? People talk EVs. EVs include scooters.
yeah.
Okay, so talk cars. So people talk about EV5s.
Yeah.
You know,
Lithium.
is it actually a car?
Yeah.
Did the battery cause it?
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that's actually what I use as the comeback. I said, oh, are you worried about your watch catching on fire, your earpods catching on fire, your laptop catching on fire, your phone catching on fire?
But
like everything is lithium battery powered.
But
are you worried ever about that stuff catching on fire?
What's crazy is you go into Hope Island and there's apartments everywhere through there, but in the basements they're happy to have golf carts. You know, but we're not having EV infrastructure in here because of fires and batteries. It's like, are you serious?
And by golf carts.
You got a question here?
By golf carts, you mean they'd have some battery golf carts with hydrogen.
Yeah.
When they're charging.
Yeah, correct.
He's got a question.
I've registered for the AEVA webinar.
Oh, yeah.
Battery EV fires.
Yeah, we were talking about that before. Yeah, that sounds, very interesting.
Night?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll make sure that's up on the Facebook page if anyone wants to check that out.
If I could make a couple of points. About 18 months ago, I had Arran install my EV charger into our apartment complex. And so at the time I was the secretary of the Body Corporate Committee, and I thought, well, this is a bunch of switched on people. Was I wrong? Yes, all the tinfoil hat owners came out. I started off 10 letters later, and it was only when I threatened, and it wasn't a threat, to go to QCAT did they realise that I was serious, and they then realised that if you go to QCAT, then the magistrate that's there, he will make you compromise, and if you can employ facts, figures, and you'll win your argument hands down, and no committee wants to go to, Body Corporate Committee wants to go to QCAT because it's a public hearing, and
I implore everyone that is having lots of issues, start off softly, as Arran has said, and ratchet up the pressure on them, and if you don't get any, then drag the big stick out and say, well, QCAT, we're going. And if they don't compromise, then this goes into the minutes, and prospective owners of an apartment complex will do their due diligence, and they'll read the minutes that have been produced, and they go, oh, aren't these a bunch of knuckle draggers? And, well, we won't buy in here. And the other thing is that I had lots of issues as far as the fire. They eventually compromised and made me put the charger out in the garden bed, and I put a sub-meter on that. I then take a photo before and after every time I charge it, and then they manually send me a bill each quarter. Well, this quarter they've forgotten about it, but well.
That's good.
Yeah, well, but I've got a spreadsheet that has every... as far as insurance is concerned, our body corporate asked that question of our insurance company, and no, they have not put it up. They've gone up substantially, but it's for other fire issues. Also, if you're looking at around, look up Strata is a online thing, and they've got an EV installation within apartments. It's a webinar that's happening at 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the one.
So
yeah, that's great.
That's, yeah. Anyway, thank you. Cheers.
Okay, so is there any other questions about Strata installs? Yes, Jan? Floods.
Oh, floods.
And also, the other thing communal installation. So instead of me having one, you having one, not having another one, is it ever considered that we make one for everybody in the complex to use in some way?
So multi. Can you do the one? So communal EV charging was the question, and what happens with flooding?
We don't get flooding, do we, in Brisbane? No. So, I'm not sure about flooding. Flooding is probably no different to switchboards and all the rest of it that go under, which does happen, and then it's just a rebuild of everything that's in the basement. In terms of the community type shared arrangement is fine to tick the box early because of this fear factor moving forward. What they normally do is say, what's the infrastructure look like? What does the cost look like? How do we make this happen? And then what they normally do is resort to putting in 2 EV chargers outside, and then we'll all share that. And that's fine if there's only 2 or 3 in the building, maybe even 4. I think 6 is probably getting a bit much. Now, how do you organise it that if I'm doing 300 or 400 Ks a day and I'm going to be on that all night, how do we manage this? And I always say to them, look, if you're going to do that, then we'll do a Facebook message group with all the EV owners, and then you can all kind of work out the logistics around that. But as we move forward and we get 50 EVs in the building, then we've got a problem. So it's a band-aid for now, but it's better than nothing.
Sounds like an opportunity for one of those blue boxes that pick up in WA with 3-phase to 22 kilowatts.
Yeah.
Makes it nice and quick.
Okay, maybe one last question if anyone's got one.
Maybe segue to the next discussion. Installs in Strata, are they subject to the same rules that Energex brings on demand and peak loading, so they can shut you off whenever they choose?
That's the next discussion, but...
Yeah, that's something that I'm not, I haven't heard yet. We do individual metering for that, but it's more of a from a money type perspective that whoever's utilising their software in there and they want to cross check it, that they've got a separate bill for the EV infrastructure. But yeah, I haven't had any conversations to Energex around that.
All right, well, thank you very much, Arran, for coming in tonight. That's very informative. Your employees look really hard at work in that photo too, so some nice looking installs, nice cable management. You up here, Mitch, or?
Yeah, just waiting for the intro music.
Oh, whoa. Shots fired. Okay, I'm trying to remember what you were going to specifically mention tonight, because there was that article that came out how the government was going to bring in some legislation that EV charging was going to have to be metered somehow, and they were going to be controlled load, and they were going to be able to turn off your.
If you have the screws here, so
yeah, fire away, mate.
Oh, cheers. G'day, everyone. A little bit of a different run through tonight. This is more of the links that you can go to see where you fall in. This is more of a general overview of what's going on as far as legislation goes. So Les has brought up the links, which will be provided later for everyone. This one is for Energex. The Ergon version is, from what I can tell, exactly the same, except Ergon's written on it. Pretty sure the colour's the same too. Yeah, so essentially what's going on, and the question before was about apartments. Typically they come under three-phase, so there's no obligation for controlled load at the moment on three-phase supplies. So it'd be very, very rare that you get an apartment building on a single phase. There's just too many rooms. And that's sort of where their exclusion comes from. More to do with single phase installations, so your typical homes. At the moment, it's anything greater than 20 amps. So if you have a single phase home and you've got a 10 amp or a 15 amp power point in your garage or your shed or wherever, and you're just plugging your Tesla charger off the wall, knock yourself out, off you go, don't need any special deal. As soon as you push past that 20 amps barrier, Energex now wants you on controlled load, from what I've gathered from Nathan.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's right. Oh. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, solar is same battle. Queensland likes to do their own stuff.
Which would be nearly everyone with a level 2 charger, because
yeah,
most people will be on 30 to 20 amp. Right?
From a lot of the single phase installs that I keep seeing come through, everyone asks, why am I not, if I got a 7 kilowatt charger, why can I not run it at 7 kilowatts? And typically, the suggestion that I've worked with a lot of electricians in the past has been set it to 16 amp to begin with, and then once you sort out your controlled load, tariffing or agreement, and it's approved through Energex or whoever your energy provider is, once you sort that out, then you can do the upgrade to the full load allocation that they'll give you, up to whatever that is. There are a couple of little conditions on that, and yeah, it comes down a lot to who's your provider and what type of controlled load tariff you're operating under, which is your time of use, blah, blah, blah.
So just in practical terms, it means that you have to set up another meter in your meter box, that your EV charger is
like a hot water
running specifically.
So if you ever look at there's a hot water
lot of people just have the 1 meter, you know, they don't have time of day charging.
Yeah, so now it's over 20, you've got to have a separately controlled meter.
I thought they just recently changed it to dynamic connection rather than controlled load.
It's pretty fluid, this thing. Everyone's sort of figuring out as we go. That's why I'm trying to do a little bit different, to say, look, keep up to spec with it. A lot of it comes down to who you're getting the installation done by, as to how much they're aware of.
Yes, Aaron?
With this, everyone that brings us down is saying it's limited to 25 amps. And I'm looking everywhere.
Again, trying to sort of, here's the link. This is Energex saying it. So if anybody wants to confirm it for themselves, Energex link, Ergon link, because it seems to be pretty fluid and everyone's trying to get a bit of a gauge on it.
Yes,
so.
Settings in it, we can set it to maximum, say 2025. It's not on a dedicated circuit. I've set that on 20 amps. Is that suitable?
If it's older than when they change
it. Yeah.
For new installs.
This is, you can have a switchboard from the 1960s and it's alterations and amendments. As soon as you come in and touch it, then you've got to bring it up to the new standards. Unless you do like for like, it's as soon as you touch it, she's new standards the whole way. And that's where the cost comes in.
What's the rules around having a power point installed for, say, a 32 amp compressor or a welder?
So, I don't know if anybody caught that. The question around 32 amp socket outlet for a welder or an air compressor. Again, it's down to your Sparky and how you negotiate the installation. So, from what I understand, as soon as it gets over 20 amps, it becomes a controlled load. So just across the board, QECM, Energex connection manual, as soon as it gets over a 20 amp load on a single phase circuit, straight away controlled load. So that's pulling from Energex information here, and as soon as you go into the QECM is a free download if anybody wants to have a squiz at it. You can go in and look at what the Sparkies look at, and it's saying single phase over 20 amp, start going controlled load.
We've got some numbers here.
Yeah, 20 amp, 230 uncontrolled.
There's
no 20 amp.
There's no 25.
Yeah, just keep an eye on their version 4 at the moment of QECM, from what I understand. It's pretty regularly being discussed by Energex and Ergon and a lot of safety bodies, ESO especially. I actually had a conversation with the ESO at the home show a couple of weeks ago, and one of my direct suggestions to them, because they're working on the AS3000 updates at the moment, was recommending using a larger conductor than what's regulated in the AS3008. So, for example, for an EV charger that you expect to do 32 amps, it's based on distance obviously, but a 6mm cables are recommended. My advice to them is that you need to increase that size, because like anything that's ever been done in the past, everyone's learning as they go, and that was, from my understanding, came around from ovens. And in my personal experience, ovens don't tend to run for longer than about 2, maybe 3 hours on a regular basis. A car is a whole other situation. You're talking about potential daily use of greater than 5 or 6 or 7 hours continuously. So from my experience, good installers are proactive, and they will make that suggestion to you. Just say, hey, personal safety, yes, I'm a little bit more expensive, but the reason is I've chosen a larger conductor to do your circuit because this situation is different from what the AS3008 suggests. We are just going to go that little bit extra safety and choose a large conductor because your load character is different. It's time and heat. So it can be the difference between lasting 5 years and lasting 15 years, just going that little bit extra. And then if the rules change down the track, you're already to a greater compliance already. They might come in and say, this isn't working, or we're going to go something different. You've already got the next size up conductor ready to go. So.
Okay.
Sorry, mate. Another one?
Are they looking at bringing in something whereby the old 3-pin GPO is killed off as far as speed?
So you can get 15 amp ones, 3-pin, obviously with a fatter earth.
5-pin, 3-pin.
You can do 5-pin. There are domestic's a whole different ball game, especially with say apartment complexes and then a single house. A lot of the time it just comes down to cost. You know, you're starting to talk $1,500 to $2,000 straight off the bat as soon as you start messing around with that aspect. So typically people just want to go, what's the easiest thing to suit me now? Down the track, maybe I'll spend $1,500 on the charger upgrade if I start punching out the kilometres on a pretty regular basis. So my recommendation to a lot of my contacts who are in the apartment game is you needed to be thinking about this 2 or 3 years ago and start putting 15 amp power points in every single apartment space. Just assume at some point in time you're going to have a 60 to 70% utilisation of EV infrastructure in your accommodation or your apartment. Sorry, yes, Nathan.
Yeah, no, that's good. Les, can you go back up the screen a little bit? I just wondered if you could help us explore a bit. Option 2 there, so primary tariff with a dynamic connection. This, I just wondered if you could help us understand a little bit what this means, because I feel, and I'm not really getting it fully, but I feel like this is a I have one line in, I have 1 meter, and now I've got a data connection with a smart charger that means that I can have a normal time of use tariff, which is what I want, because I don't want one of your tariff 13 volts or whatever.
Yeah, you want a dynamic.
I want a dynamic load, because then I can get an EV tariff, which I've got at the moment. And I can also keep you happy by being able to turn it down on the day somebody left the aircon on. And so I just want to see if that option 2 is just what I'm thinking it is.
So my personal experience has come from aircons and what happened in that space. And it's the ability for Energex to directly control the load demand on their network in either emergency events or to prevent brownouts. So my understanding of this personally is that it's a way for them to manage EV charging loads and timing.
Go on, please. I was just going to say, in Adelaide right now, they're implementing devices that are smart enough that the local energy companies can actually control and ramp the device up and down.
Yeah.
So right now, if you don't have an OCPP compliant device, 1.6J, then they're not going to be able to put their software in that device, and they're not going to be able to control it. So it's doing this not compliant.
Part of the reason for that is so that they can soak up all their excess solar and wind during the day.
It appears that Energex are very aware of what power's going where and what demand's coming in and where it's all going. And it's the way I've tried to explain it to people in the past has been, imagine if all of a sudden now every estate has a second oven and what happens to the transformer in the street. So they only built that transformer thinking, the average house is going to be under, here's your average load profile. All of a sudden every house has gone and added an extra oven that doesn't just run for 2 hours, it runs for up to 8. And Energex is going, oh crap. So some way of them to control loads across a bigger expanse. So again, back down to your network provider as to what tariff structure you're going to work with as to...
Well, we're all on Energex here.
Yeah. More...
Energex customer.
So like a Linto or Amber, if they have like a green tariff or something like that.
That doesn't fit with this. So
yeah.
I'm on OVO at the moment, was on power trips. I'm on an OVO tariff. They give me 8 cents a kilowatt hour overnight. I want to charge my car overnight, right? Or I want to charge my solar in the day.
Yeah.
But I can't charge at 32 because I can only charge at 20 because I put my charger in yesterday.
Yeah.
I kind of read this bit, this particular option 2, as if I choose the right charger and I connect it up in the right way, I have 32 and they can turn it down in 3 days a year that there's a problem at 6 o'clock at night.
Yep.
That would be great. Do we think we have chargers in the marketplace that we could go and buy and to signal the community?
I would have said Nudo previously, until obviously situation. Yeah. There's a lot of smart EV chargers, especially now, coming on the network.
So this is a leading question because so how do we connect our very smart charger to Energex?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, that's the negative issue that if they're going to move forward and manipulate what's that structure then this will probably
This is just a rolling. Yep.
The UK did this in 2016 and they added £400 to every single charger as long as it was this way compliant.
Yep.
Australia is so far behind on this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so far behind this, but I think the fix here is a decent smart charger that's connected in the right way, wherever that is, and allows us to grab the right amount of current to have a fast charger.
Yeah, the best charger.
And turn it down 3 days a year. There's a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't expect Energex to get this dynamic stuff sort of very quickly.
No, it's a working. A lot of the solar guys that I've talked to as well said the same thing. It's a work in progress.
I've got a solar range that was installed in 2 months here.
Yep.
I'm limited to 1.5 kilowatt output because
Yep.
I've got a 10 kilowatt inverter. And until they get dynamic load, dynamic export.
Yeah. So again, that's to me personally, that's the benefit of clubs like AEVA and Toka, is this conversation. Because as soon as we leave this building, we just become educators. And heart goes out to Arran, who's fighting the battle in apartments, because that's 90% of his job is educating people. And as soon as we walk out of here, that becomes our job too. You know.
Probably help you explain why single phase and three phase is different with the load sharing in a street. When you want to do control loads. Because not every house is wired. So.
No, not every house is single phase. Some houses are three phase, exactly.
But if you've got a street full of one single phase.
Yeah, sorry. That's what this is about.
Yeah, one of the reasons that they want to control the load on single phase houses is not every house in a street, if you've got a whole street of 30 houses, every third house will be on a different phase, or on the same phase I should say. So you'll have L1, L2, L3, L1, L2, L3, and if you had every third house had an EV charger, then they would all be drawing off that one phase, and that one phase would be overloaded and the other two wouldn't. And that would create an imbalance right back at the generator. So that's why they want to balance it on all the different phases.
I had a little question. That's my solar. If I put on 8 kilowatt of solar and I run that through my Zappy charger, I never actually draw 7 kilowatt from the grid because I only use the excess solar, but technically it's not coming from the panels. Am I required to have this new device that can ramp down my charging, but even though I'm using solar to charge my car, excess solar to charge my car?
So it's still a control load, but it's controlled through the inverter.
But is it seeing, if my Zappy is connected to a controlled load, is that the same as having it do what it does now, where it's using a Hall effects monitor to monitor how much the house is using, how much is getting it sent back to the grid?
Yeah.
What was that, sorry?
The solar is putting out 6 kilowatts and it's charging the car 6 kilowatts. If the sun power comes over and drops back to 2 kilowatts, the Zappy will automatically drop down to 2 kilowatts to match it.
I mean, I've been using the Zappy for like 4 years, so I get that part, but what I'm saying is once I change my Zappy to a controlled load and my solar is producing so much solar that if it's connected, can they turn the amount that's...
Does it only control the thing in, or does it control the whole thing?
Yes. Can they, when my solar is exporting a lot, can they turn down how fast my car is charging when my solar is exporting a lot? Yeah.
When your solar's exporting a lot, there's not going to be a lot of demand.
There won't be much demand on the grid. Maybe. So. There's a lot of nuance. And
the solar can get 27 kilowatts, but to go to a charger, you have to go back.
But the point is, but if they want to turn it down,
technically at no point would your charger be drawing from solar. Your charger be drawing from whatever's on the grid at the time, including whatever your solar is.
yes. And then the point that Nathan was making is Energex can't see my solar aware device.
Your charger is a control load, you would be subject to Energex controlling it like any other control load.
Yeah.
If they want to turn down control loads, your charge goes.
Yeah. Which isn't. It can't do now.
Yeah.
So
that's where like the value in a watt pile or something like that rolls in, because you're just sort of cutting that out and you're just typically trying to pull straight from, or a Solar Edge EV charger that's direct connected to the actual inverter. You're just sort of bypassing all that stuff. This is very common in the off-grid scenario.
Yeah, well, I wonder if people island their solar to do EV charging if stuff gets too...
It's just getting complicated, yeah. And that's one of the reasons that I put this information up the way that I did, because it's such a broad discussion and it's going to have to be had whether we like it or not. Yeah, fire away, Nathan. You're...
To see if we can have an open invitation to somebody from Energex
Yep.
to come here and in plain language explain to consumers what we might be allowed to have.
Yeah.
Before we actually get. Now, I don't know if Robert or one of the other guys that have been here before might actually take that up. But if we could like get a bit of an idea of that.
From the horse's mouth.
Because you're an electrician, confused, clearly not got, clarity. The consumers were like, I don't know, we read the electrician go, hey, what can I do?
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's holding back people.
A good electrician will be honest to when he's not sure. That's the biggest differentiator between a good electrician and your average spark. I did my apprenticeship, this wasn't even a factor. And that's why I joined the AEVA, is to go, this is coming, before we get steamrolled, let's get into a group that's going to actually have these conversations. And these are the conversations that we need to have. So definitely let's push to get someone from Energex, because as sparks, we need this info. Oh, there we go. But yeah, we need this info as well. That's the reason it's the way that it's presented.
Well, thank you, Mitch. We'll talk more about this offline. Appreciate Arran and yourself having a chat tonight. We're going to break now for tea and coffee and biscuits. And
solar's on track for about 12 megawatts.
Where's the screen?
In my unit. But I've got.
All right, thanks, guys.